Assalamualaikum and hi to my lecturer and my fellow friends. Before that, let me introduce myself. My name is Noor Syahirah binti Ludin and I am from group 3, which is our group will present about method of determining had Kifayah in Selangor and Penang. And my team members consist Izrin, Aida and Siti Muslihah. And
Assalamualaikum, my name is Siti Muslihah binti Azhar. Now we go to the concept of had Kifayah, divided into two parts. First, the definition of had Kifayah, and secondly, had Kifayah based on Islamic views. Okay, next, as we know, the role of the religious council of each state is very important in setting the had Kifayah. So, to help the Asnaf group, the zakat that is distributed must be according to the amount or rate that suit them. The provision of this assistance help human survival and reduce the poverty rate in the country. Now we go to the definition of had kifayah, taken from a compound word consisting of had and kifayah. In terms of language, had means the separator between two things, taken from the word hatta, and al-kifayah means something sufficient out of life. Taken from the word al-kufyah, interpret with various meaning, namely al-kafaf, al-qut, and al-istighna. In terms of terminology, no specific definition is found and detailed by scholars about it. If based on zakat Selangor, had kifayah is defined as the distribution of zakat fakir asnaf, which must meet the real basic needs, while based on zakat Penang, had kifayah means the minimum basic rate for personal needs and dependents. From the introduction and concept, we know that had kifayah is a minimum basic requirement limit to know the appropriate rate to meet the basic expense of the recipient. Had kifayah is the rate or line for determining the minimum limit for a household based on the current cost of living, used to measure the level of poverty between an individual's income and dependence. In determining the level of eligibility of zakat recipient, the method used include socio-economic condition, time, needs, place, and number of households according to their respective state. Based on this, we know that had kifayah is a guideline to meet human needs in life. Next, we go to had kifayah based on Islamic views from Quran and Hadith. In Surah Taha verse 118, we know that Allah will not burden a person beyond his ability. Every human provision has been determined by Allah. True had kifayah can help the asnaf for survival, used as a yardstick to determine how much the rate can cover the basic expense of individuals and a household. And then in the hadith narrated by Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, we can conclude that in our property, there is also a little bit of other people's property. We have to pay zakat to clean the property. So by paying zakat, we help reduce the burden of incapable people for asnaf.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Izrin bin Nazir from class IC2105C. Today, I would like to present to all of you under the topic Zakat Selangor Board. First thing first, we will talk about the history of Zakat Selangor Board. The Zakat Selangor Board, or as known as MAIS, is synonymous with zakat management in Malaysia Islamic heartland. MAIS was established 20 years ago and is dedicated to ensuring that zakat are collected efficiently, effectively, and in line with Islamic law. Second, their slogan. Under the slogan Leading Change, LZS MAIS is committed to providing the finest service possible to its consumer, who are both zakat payer and zakat receiver. Third, the branches of Zakat Selangor Board, with existence of over 400 personnel and the support of 25 LZS branches located across Selangor, it continues to uphold the trust of Al-Amil and Amilin. Last but not least, the role of Zakat Selangor Board. Throughout its 2 decades of existence, Zakat Selangor MAIZ has maintained its position as a reputable zakat organization by continually stepping up its dakwah effort to guarantee that more individuals fulfill this pillar of Islam. Today, LZS MAIZ is a visionary zakat organization that employs the best management practice in developing and sustaining excellences for not only with Asnaf, but the whole Ummah. The next topic is about Zakat Penang Chronology Establishment. Zakat Penang Chronology Establishment beginning on October 23, 1993, which is by YB Datuk Dr. Haji Muhammad Shahar bin Sidi, submitted a document on the creation of a totally owned 100% firm, Ma'in, for the purpose of collecting zakat in the state of Penang. Then, in 1 June 1994, Ma'in registered firm of Sahabah Urus Zakat Sendirian Berhad ASUZ as an Amil Duty Company on its behalf, which is company number 302434A, with a capital investment of RM 1,019,680 and 58, and established it as a wholly owned private limited company under the Company Act 1965. Moreover, in 1 September 1994, the same years, ASUZ, which is As-Sahabah Urus Zakat Sendirian Berhad, commenced full operation under the name of the Penang State Zakat Management Centre, or simply PUZ, ordered to safeguard the zakat institution public interest. Last, on 26 April 2012, the Zakat Management Centre, Penang Islamic Religious Council, changed its name and logo to Zakat Pulau Pinang. His Excellency Tun Datuk Seri Utama Dr. Haji Abdul Rahman Haji Abbas yang di-Pertua Negeri Penang finished the branding.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Noor Aida Hadirah binti Ruslan. So now I will continue with the definition of asnaf. Asnaf are those who are qualified for zakat that has been chosen among the Muslim. So it can be seen based on Al-Quran, Surah At-Tawbah, verse 60. As I already stated on the screen, the meaning of the verse, which is zakat is for the poor and the needy, and Amir, those employed to administer the fund, for the Mu'allaf, those who have embraced Islam, for those in bondage and in debt, those who strive in the cause of Allah, and for the wayfarer. Thus it is ordained by Allah, and Allah is full of knowledge and wisdom. So basically, by the meaning of this verse, it can be shown that Allah already specified eight asnaf, eight category of asnaf as a recipient of zakat, which are fakir, miskin, amir, mu'allaf, riqab, al-gharimin, fi sabilillah, and lastly ibn sabil. Now we will move to the type of asnaf based on mazhab part. I will start with fakir, miskin. Fakir is a word that came from Arabic word that sounds al-fakir, al-fuqara, which means lack or someone who has no property and no means of subsistence. While miskin is a word that came from Arabic word that sounds al-miskin, al-masakin, that refer to those who lack something and do not have enough self-need. In other words, a poor person is someone who owns property or earns a living but can only meet his own need and the requirement of his dependent. As you can see, Mazhab Hanafi thought about fakir miskin is Al-Hasan opinion, The miskin is worse than the fakir because of the begging action, while Qatadah thought the fakir are worse because of prolonged hardship than the temporary of miskin, which means the fakir is worse because it have a long-term hardship than the miskin. Next, Mazhab Maliki thought it have two opinions regarding fakir miskin based on Jumhur Ulama by Mazhab Maliki. The first one is fakir is those who have property but lack appropriate fundamental necessities, while the miskin are those who have no direct property at all. And the second opinion is both of fakir and miskin are identical. And the next, Mazhab Hanbali. There is thought that fakir is people who do not own property and do not have half of the basic need, which is had kifayah, while the miskin is an individual who have only reached half or a less portion of had kifayah, but not totally perfect. And the last one, Mazhab Shafi'i, thought that fakir is someone who have no property and cannot afford necessities of themselves, while the miskin is someone who have property but do not meet the basic need. So now we move to next category, which is Amir. Amir is people who carry out all the zakat related activities, which means these people is known as who work directly with zakat institution, whether as individual or as organization, to manage and administer zakat concerns such as collection, distribution, and financial affairs, among other things. So Amir is not permitted to request payment other than Amir right, which is the part that they have received the zakat, and also they cannot request fees other than their right even for Amir operation. So as you can see, Mazhab Hanafi thought that Amir is a person who is designated by the Imam as a worker to collect zakat. They are given out of what they collect just for their own and their assistance sufficiency. So it said that the amount given for the Amir is not measured by the price, which is the wages. The next one is Mazhab Maliki. Mazhab Maliki thought that Amir is more specific, which is Zakat Administrator, Authors, Advisor, and so on. It's same as well as Mazhab Hanafi, that the amount they're given is not measured by the price, which is the wages, and also Amir are given the zakat portion because of their duties, whether they are rich or poor. And the next one is Mazhab Hanbali. They thought that Amir is a zakat administrator that are solely paid zakat as pay for their service according to the wages of their work. So they get the zakat because of their work on collecting the zakat. And the last thing is Mazhab Shafi'i, but that Amir is a person who worked just to collect zakat and receive no other compensation. So the inclusion of Amir as Asnaf shows that zakat in Islam is not a duty that is only given to a person, which means by individual, but also the duty of the state. And also zakat has a specific budget that is deducted from it to the salary of the executor. So the next category is mu'allaf. Mu'allaf is based on Arabic word that from word allafa, yu'alifu, or ta'lif, that signifies team. It is stated in Quran that mu'allaf is one of asnaf category for the purpose of restraining the evil, or a group of Muslims who are still weak in purpose and then given the zakat to enhance their religion. So based on the screen, as you can see, Mazhab Hanafi thought that Mu'allaf is some of the people who have truly embraced Islam, while some of them have embraced Islam only outwardly and not truly Islam. They are from the group of Munafiq, and also some who prefer a safe environment. The second one, Mazhab Maliki. It has two meanings regarding Mu'allaf, which are the first, Kafir people who are given zakat to embrace Islam. The another meaning is a person who has just converted to Islam and then given zakat so that his religion belief becomes stronger. On the other hand, Mazhab Hanbali thought that many definitions regarding mu'allaf, such as a kafir leader who lead a race or group that is expected to embrace Islam or expected to stop its evil. Another definition is a Muslim who is expected by giving him zakat to straighten his faith. And the last one is a Muslim leader who is expected to have his follower embrace Islam or advise and encourage him to jihad and defending Muslim. The last one, Mazhab Shafi'i, thought that Mu'allaf is a person whose heart is tame and softened to embrace Islam, which is also limited to people who have embraced Islam only. They are given zakat to strengthen their hold on Islam, and it is also open to all Muslims without any time limit, whether they have just embraced Islam or already embraced it since childhood because they were born and raised in a Muslim family. So the next category is riqab. It means the purchase of a slave with the intention of releasing him or supporting him in his liberation effort given to his master. While according to Jumhur Fuqaha, the best approach to use zakat money to liberate a servant is to assist Mukatab servant in collecting enough money to redeem himself based on the agreement regarding the master side. So, as I found from the research regarding riqab, there is four theory related to riqab. The first one is servant of Mukatab. Based on thought of Imam Shafi'i, a Mukatab servant who live in the area where the zakat property is collected. If the zakat property is sufficient, it is given to the slave for him to be free. The second theory is the servant. Based on Mazhab Maliki thought, the slave emancipation, hence the government must buy slave with zakat money until ownership of the slave is transferred to a group of Muslims. The next one is Mukatab servant and Sahaya servant. Ibn Qudamah thinks that a riqab refers to both a Mukatab slave and a slave who is purchased and then liberated. Last one is redeeming captive. Imam Ahmad and Ibn Taymiyyah claim that in addition to liberating slaves, it is permitted to utilize a portion of zakat property to redeem Muslim prisoner from the hands of infidel. So we move to the next category, which is al-gharimin, which based on Arabic word gharim, that mean a person who are bound by an agreement. So basically, those who are indebted to meet necessities for the well-being of themselves or family or society and are permitted under Sharia. So as you can see on the screen, Mazhab Hanafi thought that al-gharimi is a person who is in debt and does not have any sum of property that surpass the rate of his obligation. The next one, Mazhab Maliki thought that al-gharimi is a person who is in debt but has no property to pay it back and is not indebted in matter of immorality. While Mazhab Hanbali and also Mazhab Shafi'i thought that al-gharimin is the same thing, which have two categories. The first one is al-gharimin is the person who owns for himself or others, whether for the aim of virtue or vice. While the second one is al-gharimin is a person who owns to settle dispute even if the debtor is wealthy. So some of the scholars from Mazhab Shafi'i but categorize the Asnaf Gharimin into the four groups. That namely, so the first one is those who own to settle dispute. The second one, those who are indebted for public benefits such as celebrating guests and build the bridge. The third one is indebted for personal purpose. And the lastly, indebted for being a guarantor. So the next category is Fisabilillah, which means jihad alone, while the general purpose on the other hand, it is a work of charity to attain the pleasure of Allah. By Mazhab Hanafi, they thought it is the position of the impoverished and the need is an obligatory need. For example, in a situation of war, that soldiers are running out of weapon supplies, that similar to the person who are going to perform Haji, who running out of travel supplies. It also can be defined to such a situation like for the student. Mazhab Maliki thought that Fisabilillah is concerned with battle and jihad. They said that zakat should be given without regard for the economic situation of the warrior. Jumhur ulama bermazhab Maliki permit the use of zakat money to acquire military equipment such as firearms, horse vehicles, defensive walls, or fortification, worship, and so on. On the other hand, Mazhab Hanbali and Mazhab Shafi'i thought the same thing about fi sabilillah, which is who are voluntary warrior but do not receive special privilege from the government or otherwise. Uh, Even though the warrior themselves pay for the zakat, they are still entitled to zakat property aid based on their requirement, although they already include the wealthy of the warrior. Last category of asnaf is Ibn Sabil. It based on two Arab words, which is Ibnu means bird and Sabil means pet. By Shara, it means a person who is stranded during the travel journey owing to obstacles. That refers someone who are ongoing journey. By Mazhab Hanafi, the thought Ibn Sabil is a foreigner who was deprived of his property despite being a wealthy man in his homeland, since he was destitute, which is a poor man at the meantime. Mazhab Maliki thought Ibn Sabil is a foreigner who needs the property to continue his journey to his destination on non-immoral item and has no money of his own while having it in his birthplace. While Mazhab Hanbali thought Ibn Sabil is a traveller who has problem in his journey, particularly in terms of obedience, which is religion, or things that should be. It means that he also did not have enough property to continue his journey either to his destination or to return his homeland. Lastly, Mazhab Shafi'i thought that Ibn Sabil is a person who are on their trip should be in the form of obedience to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, which is in a religious affair. That means a person who is an area of charity, who want to travel on non-immoral matters but unable to reach the destination without given an assistant to him.
So now I will continue and I will present about the element was determined by Jauhar. And in this slide we have 6 elements, which is food and drinks, shelters and accommodation, clothing, medical, education, and transportation. And Jauhar also said this element is basic requirement for determine had kifayah. And seperti yang kita ketahui juga, 6 elemen ini sangat penting dalam kehidupan seharian kita. Macam contoh kata kita tak cukup duit nak hantar anak pergi belajar. So, Jauhar ataupun pihak zakat akan tengok balik kepada kita punya gaji seharian kita tu, sama ada melepasi had kifayah ataupun tidak. Not only that, we must to see their categories to determine had kifayah. Like sama ada dependent tu bergantung kepada household head or not, and sama ada dependent tu dia bekerja ataupun sekolah dan sebagainya. Dan kita kena tengok status family tu, dan kita tengok juga di mana rumah orang tu terletak, sama ada di luar bandar ataupun di bandar. Dan kita tengok sama ada we must to see their home is free house or paid house. And lastly, we must to see rate of had kifayah for each member. So I will explain about definition of members of household in the state in Selangor and Penang. So, what is head of household? Head of household is husband who is unable to earn a living, or wife who does not have sufficient financial support from her husband. While for spouse, wife or husband, if being supported by the head household, and dependent is their their age is about 80 years old and above. And the children who is staying with their family, either employed or non-employed, and was supported by the head of household. Maksudnya anak itu walaupun anak tu tak bekerja dan bekerja, dia disupport oleh ketua keluarga tu. So the definition for dependent studying at higher learning, and we have known as IPT, they are children studying at university whose depend on the household help, and schooling dependent is between 7 to 70 years old who is studying in primary school or secondary school, and they are under responsibility of the household. And lastly is non-schooling is between 1 to 6 years old, and their children are under the responsibility of the household head. I will talk about monthly Had Kifayah schedule for Muslim in Selangor. So if we see on this slide, we have three columns, which is like paying rental house, free housing. What is paying rental house? Paying rental house ni adalah rumah yang perlu dibayar setiap bulan, rumah sewa. Kiranya kita kenal sebagai rumah sewa. So untuk free housing is rumah yang tidak perlu dibayar, macam rumah sendiri ataupun kerajaan bagi rumah tu secara percuma dekat kita. So kalau kita tengok dekat sini, untuk household tu semuanya sama untuk paying rental house ataupun free housing, kecuali except for head of family. Maksudnya untuk paying rental house, dia punya monthly dia tu adalah 1078. For free housing is 695. While for employed adult, unemployed adult, dependent in higher learning, dependent between 7 to 70 years old, dependent between 6 years old and below is same for paying rental house and free housing. So employed adult is dia punya ranking tu dalam 404. For unemployed adult 60 years old above is 181, and dependent in higher learning is about 592. While for dependent between 7 to 70 years old, 334. And lastly is dependent between 6 years old and below is about 145. So totally for paying rental house is 2,734. For free housing, 2,351. In addition, kalau kita tengok juga dekat dia punya household tu, sama ada dia ada dependent for disabled person, sama ada untuk orang kurang upaya ataupun tak. Kalau untuk orang kurang upaya, dia punya rank tu adalah dalam RM224. For chronic patient dependence, 222, and child care cost is 290. Then I will give example and calculation. Like Makcik Siti is a single mother living in her own home, non-paying in the Hulu Klang area, and she works as a tailor and her income is about 1,000 per month. Auntie Siti has 5 children and 2 are studying at the higher learning at university, and 1 is studying in high school and the other 2 are studying in primary school students. So kalau kita tengok kat sini, Makcik Siti dia punya gaji sebagai tailor tu dalam 1,000 sebulan. Dan kita tengok dekat situ dia duduk rumah dan paying, which is free housing. Dan kita tengok based on their category, based on rate of Had Kifayah, based on family members on dia home and total, which is kalau kita tengok tadi head of household is dalam RM695, dia seorang je, dan dia punya total pun RM695. Dan untuk dependent in higher learning IPT, anak dia ada 2 yang belajar dekat university, dan kita kalikan 2 tu dengan 592, kita dapat RM1,184. Dan yang ketiga kita tengok anak dia yang umur dalam 7 to 70 years old ada 3 orang. So, kita tengok kat situ rate of had kifayah in Selangor dalam RM334. So, kita kalikan, kita darab dengan 3, kita dapat RM1,002. So, kita tengok pula dekat dependent for disabled person, children cost, chronic patient dependent ada ke tak? Kalau tak ada, kita tak payah tambah. Kalau ada, baru kita tambah lah. So, kita tengok balik total of had kifayah for paying house for non-paying house or free housing is about 2,081. Dan kita tengok income of household is about 1,000. Dan kita tolak 1,000 dengan 2,881. So, kita dapat total of had kifayah 1,881. So, bila kita tengok kat sini, Makcik Siti tu memerlukan 1,881 untuk mencukupi had kifayah tu. And saya nak minta maaf dekat my lecturer sebab saya dah try hard untuk cari method yang telah ditentukan Pulau Pinang bagi menentukan tu had kifayah, tapi tak jumpa. Dan saya jumpa dalam artikel ni yang mengatakan dalam in 2050 amount for free house is about 950 untuk free house, while untuk paid house or rental house is about 1,110. Not only that, mereka tengok juga pada kadar untuk makanan tu dalam sebulan is about 330, and untuk pakaian RM80. And the last element is on medical and education. So this state for education is about 150 and medical is about 85. So in each state, the mode of calculation and in-laws will be different. Because of this, there are difference in the mode of calculation for several states.
Now we go to the legal evidence based on 6 elements, which are shelter and accommodation, food and drink, clothing, medical, education, and transportation. Actually, none of the appropriate specific stipulation are used in determining the rate of an individual's need. Scholars agree on that, usually according to the current situation and uruf. First, for legal evidence about shelter and accommodation, based on Surah An-Nahl verse 80, the majority of fuqaha agree that accommodation is included in the daruriyat matter, which means that the poor fakir are eligible to have their own accommodation, not by way of rent. It is permissible to build a house for the poor fakir using zakat property. Second, legal evidence about food and drinks. In Surah An-Nahl verse 80, for the first view, Ghazali said that the minimum height for food and drink is 1 day yesterday equal to 1 month of basic food and supplement. Has rukhsah for some situation only, but cannot be continuously given to him. For the second view, this group does not agree with the argument given by the first view, that is a weak hadith. It is feared that a person like to beg or be too ascetic. In the hadith, sufficiency means something that can be used to eat at night and during the day. So had kifayah for the food and drink is moderate according to uruf. They agree and allow this element to be implemented. Third, for legal evidence about clothing. Some Shafi'i scholars support the view that even if they have clothes and a place to live, they are still considered fakir if they still bear harm to them. It has been mentioned in the surah, Allah has instructed Muslims to cover their aurat with proper clothing. Fourth, for legal evidence about medical, we must know the healthcare is the category of daruriyat. Therefore, Shafi'i scholars argue if a doctor wants to get medical tools and any referral to treat patients, except zakat, no need to buy it. The poor fakir can also get zakat to cover the cost of healing treatment. Fifth, the legal evidence on education. In Islam, knowledge is very important for the needs of life and the civilization of the society. This statement is supported by the hadith on the Prophet narrated by Muslim. In Surah Al-Mujadalah, verse 11, we see that Allah will raise the rank of those who seek knowledge. Next and lastly, legal evidence about transportation. From the hadith, it can be explained that horse owners are not prevented from obtaining zakat. The situation is the same with people who own vehicles. It is obligatory for them to get zakat if they have to bear certain debt or burden. Qurtubi also said people who have no property or cannot afford to support their own life are still in the poor even though they have vehicles.
The next topic we will discuss is about issue and challenge in determining the limit of zakat kifayah. Then, we will discuss about the issue and challenges in determining the limits of zakat kifayah. Based on my research from the article that I have read, there are two issues and challenges that I get from my reading. The first one is determination of the aspect seen for the limit of kifayah zakat. There are two determination of the aspect seen for the limit of kifayah zakat. Number one is about the number of household, and the second one is the family dependent qualities. For example, for the number of household, family A has 7 homes with a kifayah limit of Rm 3,370, whereas family B has just 3 households with a kifayah limit of Rm 1,375. So, the difference between family A and family B is about the number of households. Second, the family dependent quality. For example, family A has 3 households with a kifayah limit of Rm 3,000 ringgit, but family B has a kifayah limit of Rm 2,000, yet has the same 3% household as family A. So, the difference between family A and family B is the family dependent quality. In my opinion, in family A, maybe there are person of his in the family that are study in the university, and the family B, there are one son that are study in the middle school. Next issue is the increasing in the number of urban poor. The first one is the cost living in the city and the rural is different. For example, individuals who live in cities spend more on non-food things such as housing, transportation, education, and debt regardless of whether it involves bank or financial organization. Moreover, during COVID-19, this year and past year, the number of urban poor increasing rapidly years by years. The second impact is the impact of increasing number of urban poor. The impact from the increasing number of urban poor will scatter poverty and increase in crime and social media problems, a decline in health and safety standard, a disregard for children's education. That's all from me. Thank you.
So now we move to the suggestion that has been made by the issue stated. The first one, the authority need to review the gross income rate of the majority of the local and outside of community. This review need to be done consistently every year so that those who get the assistance are fairly divided and provided. This because the amount of the urban poverty is increasing, so the people basically are basically changing because of the difference of places and time. And what is may not have been considered as a necessity in the past time may now be a necessity for people. And the second suggestion is the authority needs to be tolerant in assessing the aspect taken into account of employment. Um, So they need to process the criteria of some job to be suitable to the urban poor. For example, most of the job has a criteria which a person should have an experience. As we know, the urban people do not have experience, especially those who are just starting work. So this is basically because they have no knowledge of the field of work they want to pursue. By assessing the aspect taken can help them to apply for the job. And last, the authority need to create a job exposure for them by exposing them to business knowledge. So by what I'm meaning is create a job exposure is the authority need to taught the urban poor people on how to start a job such as small businesses because over the time their business can grow from the small to the big and help them to improve their standard of living in search of income.
In conclusion, dalam menentukan had kifayah ni sangat penting lah. And the had kifayah instrument is also used to determine whether or not a person is eligible for zakat based on their income and basic expenses. And to build better zakat administration, the government should determine had kifayah by conducting a survey of the essential necessities covered in each and every location. So, contoh kata kalau macam kita tak mahu dalam daerah kita tu ada, contoh kata dalam daerah kita tu ada 20 orang asnaf, tapi kita bagi bantuan dekat 10 orang je, lagi 10 orang kita tak bagi. So kita tak mahu benda tu berlaku, kita kena turun padang dan kita kena survey dalam daerah tu ada berapa orang. Maksudnya jangan kita dengar daripada orang lain, maksudnya kita survey dekat orang lain tapi kita tak survey dekat maksudnya kita tanya dekat orang lain tapi kita tak tanya dekat orang tu sendiri. So macam kita tak mau dan kita takut orang lain bagi info yang salah. So better kita pergi tanya dekat orang tu sendiri. And third, the government should ensure society basic necessity by paying attention to the minimum wage level. Sekian, terima kasih dan mohon maaf atas kekurangan pembintangan daripada grup kami. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.